is one very special episode that you're about to watch. You're joining us live here on Control TV. Daniel Bwala is a member of the Lincoln Inn Institute in the UK. He joins us. Welcome home, by the way, Daniel. It's good to see that you've been able to make both worlds your home now.
Yeah, both worlds are actually my home, and they have been for some time now. But it also feels great to come back to my country where I have nationality.
Brilliant. This political tumbling, if you will, for lack of a better word, is really concerning a lot of Nigerians, especially the obedience. I don't, you have a thing with those people, but let's go into the nitty gritty of it. Peter Obi made some political statements uh, over the during the week, just yesterday, as a matter of fact. Peter Obi says that he will only be a part of a merger, talking about political parties coming together to wrest power from the party that you seem to support, albeit distantly. He says that he will only be part of a merger of political parties if it is geared towards making Nigeria better. Daniel, what's your thoughts on this straight statement that Peter Obi has made?
Actually, the statement of Peter Obi is not straight. He was trying to be scheming, but fluid about it. What he meant by he will only be a part of any merger, not just for the grab of power, but for what is meant for Nigeria or development, because he believes that if it is development, if it is progress Nigeria needs, he's the only option. So, and if it is the grabbing of power, then it can be anybody else. And the whole conversation around merger is that the message has been pushed that if there's a merger, they will grab power. So, in other words, he's trying to use different words to say that he still insists any merger that will work is a merger that presents him as the presidential candidate. Peter Obi, I would liken him to a wandering spirit, right? So Peter Obi is somebody that is like a troubled bird without a home, because as we speak today, Peter Obi does not have even the Labour Party as a party he can conveniently rely on to take him home in the next election, because the party is presently it has intractable problems, serious problems. But the reason why nobody sees it is because nobody cares. Nobody sees Labour Party as serious enough to attract attention. That's why it doesn't project the picture of a party that is deeply divided. And the division of Labour Party is the exact division that the courts have interpreted for long as ground for which people can defect. Division that is at the national level, where you have parallel national committee, parallel chairman, and all of that. But again, like I said, the reason why it is not a subject of conversation is because he's not a factor. So let me put it this way: Peter Obi is either an enabler or a spoiler. He can never be the beneficiary of any movement, because if you look at the structure, the demography, and the permutations, he doesn't fall at this time under any calculation that will present him as a president. He doesn't have a path until 2039. And at that time, when power would have come to the north, resides for 8 years, and goes back to the south, then if he is relevant, if he is effective, if he has a good message, or if he has reinvented himself, then he will become a factor. And by that time, he'll be about nearly 80 years. So what would his message be at that time? Because now he seems to be running with the message that he's the youngest among the major contenders in the last election, and that his youthfulness and vibrancy is what would give hope to what he thought he could deliver to the Nigerian people. At that time, probably his message would be age does not matter, it's about experience. In other words, you're going to find a situation where you have like a deja vu. You have to eat back your words and then have it to come. And the idea of 2099 as is only realistic, I said it last week and then it went all over the media, because that's the realistic path. Look at it this way. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the president of Nigeria. He has 4 years term of one, and then renewable for another 4 years if the Nigerian people vote him. All that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu needs to do is to deliver on the promise. Now, the first 1 year is tumultuous because there are certain key reforms decisions that were taken, and it's predictable. Nobody is in doubt that those decisions will bring a little bit of hardship to the Nigerian people. It is like a work at the foundation level. It is not sin. And of course, the stronger or the longer the height of a skyscraper is also determined by the depth of the foundation that you establish. So what people look at are fundamentals. And then he will be judged like this, his first year, he's being judged on policy decisions. And so what we do is not about optics or opposition. We look at experts in the field. So if he's on the economy, even if the opposition say he has not performed, we think he has. The experts will give us their perspective, and they have at the moment. We know the experts. It's not like in a large country like US where you have 1,001 people. The usual suspects in Nigeria are the economic experts we've always known. They are unanimous on the
Yes,
fact that the
Daniel.
foundation has been laid.
Let's not focus on May 29th. Tomorrow is May 29th. Before we delve into that part, let's focus on this very interesting comments that Peter Obi made. He also put it as a follow-up to the first question. He has also put it in another form, looking at it from another angle, saying that he is not interested in any merger merely for the purpose of winning elections or just for the state capture. My question to you, Daniel, is if it is not for the sole aim of winning elections or state capture, as he puts it, how then is Peter Obi ready to make a change in Nigeria? I mean, you can't be president if you don't want to win elections. If you don't want to win elections, judging from his statement, that means he doesn't want to be president. Will I be right, or anyone else listening to us now, will they be right to assume that Peter Obi genuinely is not ready for presidency?
Peter Obi is actually throwing a subliminal, by those statements, he's throwing a subliminal jab as a reaction to what I think the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar said when he said there's a merger, that's the realistic chance, and that himself does not, and that himself is going to contest as long as he lives and he has the energy and the health, and that if the power is zoned to the southeast, that he will support Peter Obi. So as a compliment, reply compliment, Peter Obi used those words that he used, but it was not complimentary because the summary of what he's saying is that he's not interested in the capture or the snatching of power that the path Atiku is leading might cause. He wants a development of Nigeria, which he thinks he presents. So, and this is the characteristic of Peter Obi, never trusted. He is very crafty in the way he does things, right? Him as a person, I don't have anything personal against him. The only thing is that in politics, if you project a message, then your life must reflect that. For example, when you say that all political parties other than the Labour Party are structure of criminality, why are you in talks with them? Can a criminality change by merger? It doesn't. It's ideological issue, right? But this is what he can do if it means that is what he has to do to get power. It's the same way that he used religion, such as was never used since 1999 in our electionary process. He was going all over the churches telling them, take back Nigeria. He biased the church into supporting him, thinking it's all about religion. Now, the eyes of a lot of people are open to understand that politics is not religion, can never be. Religion is an attainment towards perfection. Politics is a man-made construct for attaining power and delivery. So it will always have its own problem. Even in America, not perfect. And he refused to run with that, to understand that what we need is to persuade the people. No, he made it about religion because largely Nigerian society is influenced by religion. And so if you can bias the people's minds.
How do you win elections when you are faced with regional lines, political lines, religious, zonal, call it whatever, such as Nigeria? Nigeria is indeed polarized, you know that. Yeah. How do you then win an election in a polarized country such as ours?
For you to win election in Nigeria, you have to be nationalistic in your mind. Then you have to carry what is in your mind and put it into works. So in other words, apart from what we cannot see, which exists in your mind as an ideology, that you are nationalistic, you represent Nigeria, So it must find expression in what you do. So what you say it, how you go about it. Now, are those actions of Peter Obi reflective of the national outlook? Certainly no. We all know that. And because the way the governance is structured and our own mode of attaining power is that you have to score certain number of votes across certain number of states. Then the FCT, you have to have certain minimal number. Now, when you win election across that, it is believed that you have the support of the entirety of Nigeria. What Peter Obi ordinarily one would think will do is, when reading the last election and looking at his weaknesses, is now to find a way of making up for those weaknesses against 2027. Unfortunately, that is not his focus, because he is not somebody built to work with political party. He believes that people can work as slave for him to emerge. That's the only thing that matters to him. Because, like you asked the question, how can you win election? You win election through a political party, because the law says political party sponsors a candidate. Now, for you to have a formidable political party that will give you the base to win election, you have to build the structure of the political party. Religious houses cannot be the structure. Those are biases, those are sentiments. So you're trying to copy what Donald Trump is doing. But when you walk through political party, it means it is not biased or influenced by religion. So what is the state of his political party? In disarray. What is his disposition? Is it towards reconciliation? Certainly no. I'm answering directly your question. How can you win? You win by majority of the vote. Majority of the vote comes from across the country. That means you have to have a cross appeal. And for you to be able to have a cross appeal, you have to have a political party that has a national outlook. Labour Party is just in 5 states in the south. They are not anywhere in the north. Then you are not making effort to spread it, because the party itself is different.
But then it threatens your party, the party you support at the moment, the APC, with a merger, a possible merger with the PDP that has all the flanks already. The structure already of Atiku is massive, and you cannot ignore that one, Daniel. If a Peter Obi and if a Peter Obi goes through another primaries and emerges, he gets the support of Atiku Abubakar, your former principal. That is enough to offset the APC right now, isn't it?
First, let me tell you, that what if is what you can do a PhD on, because it will never happen. And it will never happen because you have two ambitions that each of the ambition is not ready to concede for any. And justifiably so for either of them, because they have a right? Now, you talk about a merger that will unseat APC. Will there be a merger? Because first you have to answer the big question. Are the parties healthy? They are not. All the parties are in intensive care unit. But in fact, the parties are not controlled by members of the party. That's one. And are they likely to reconcile before the time? Certainly not. Now, Peter Obi's political capital is the inalienable support that he has from the Labour Party and the people called the obedient. Actually, if you remove obedient, Labour Party is a fringe party like any other political party, the way they were before he came in. The obedient have one philosophy. Peter Obi is the next president. Any arrangement that Peter Obi is not going to be the candidate, they are not going to be there. So if Peter Obi, for example, concedes to becoming the vice presidential candidate to anybody, he loses the greater number of obedience, because that's the ideology. So he loses his political capital. Nobody will accept Peter Obi as a vice president unless the person can guarantee that Peter Obi will bring to the table the base that he has. So you have a problem that can never be resolved. Then you come to the other political party. There are, of course, based on permutation, a lot of other people in the party who say they are not going to concede the ambition to anybody. They are going to fight it out. So we are talking about hypothesis and hypothetical issue. So I am telling you that the hypothesis will not work, because
Daniel, let me butt in here. Let me butt in here
right,
until we get to that bridge before we cross it. Let me bring up the optics for you to understand the possibilities of a merger between PDP and Labour Party against the next elections. From the 2023 elections, Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had a total votes of 8.794 million to Atiku's 6.98 million and Obi's 6.1 million votes in the ratio of 36 to 29 and 25 in that order. Now, looking at the data and a merger possibility, Daniel, this will give the APC a headache because if you sum up what we had for Obi and Atiku, automatically it beats the APC hands down. There is no way you can contest the APC can survive. There's no way the APC can survive a merger between the PDP and Labour Party. Is that true or false?
It's false because you are talking as if while the calculation and permutation of a merger is in the horizon, you are talking as if the APC will remain constant and redundant until that time. You are talking as if APC will not also work to expand its base. You are working as if APC will not correct the wrongs of the past in order to retain members and then get more. You are talking as if the APC-led administration will not have delivered to the Nigerian people in a satisfactory manner. The Nigerians will say, let's give them another 4 years to consolidate on what they've started. So all of your calculation is a what if about one side. You don't look at the what if of the other side. So let me tell you what if of the other side, because it's just like in a football. While you sit on one side, you are talking about your tactics for winning. You think your opponent is just sitting. Even if the opponent is a defending champion, you think that the defending champion will not know that those who are coming for the defending champion are coming to hit on their tactics that gave the defending champion the championship, and they will now find a way of improvising or find a way of also redirecting the energy to consolidate. So anytime, and whenever I see conversation along that line, they always talk about one side as if the other side will remain redundant. So let me tell you, by the time the merger comes together, what will then have been the state of APC? One, the reason why APC lost a greater number of votes in the 2023 presidential election was because that ticket, the Muslim ticket at the time, was considered as a threat. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has addressed the fears of the church regarding that. Because in this 1 year of his administration, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has proven to be one whose administration, in fact, benefits the minority Christians, and that he does not tolerate the disenfranchisement of another religion. So if my fear is because I think that this ticket is going to hurt me and my people, and this ticket proved not only that they are not hurting me, but in fact, they create opportunity for my people, you think I will not think to vote them? I will go for the unknown? These are the balance you have to look at. And I can tell you with every seriousness, the minority in Nigeria have largely benefited from the politics and administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu than in all of the previous administrations.
Oh.
Even the coastal line you are seeing is touching the states that come from the people in the geo system that are called the minority. Where I come from, I know the opportunities that are created to people from my own end. And all that brings us together as a nation and we pursue politics is about our collective interests. We don't have, like the way they said, politics, there are no permanent enemies, there are no permanent friends, there are permanent interests. Our collective interest is met by an administration. We stay there. They say we die there. If our interest is not met, even if the ticket is a pastor and a prophet, the Christians will have to think for where else they will get that. That is one side of the permutation. Two, you have seen in the last 1 year, I'm not talking about conjecture, major people from the opposition coming towards Tinubu's side. And many more are going to come in the coming days. So while you think of balancing the permutation from that side, you also have to look at deliverables for Tinubu around the side. And then thirdly, sir, you see, if the intractable problem confronting the Nigerian people, hunger, economic problem, and all of that, the administration addressing and lays the foundation for students to have loan, for entrepreneurs to do business, for school fees to be affordable, for all of these things to happen, when that time comes, the Nigerian people will rather stay with him. So it's working. It's a progress in the making. So always balance this probability of a merger with that. It is only in a scenario where APC
But Daniel, Daniel, this is
Right.
no ordinary possibility of a merger. This is a force to reckon with. I know we had this talk earlier about when we had this discussion of Kwankwaso in talks with Labour Party and all of that, but Kwankwaso just had over 1 million votes in the past elections. Now we're talking about a merger of the PDP and Labour Party. You talk about the apes on one side, and you're trying to look at the other apes on your side of the bargain. But even with that, the figures don't lie, Daniel. Um, are you going to categorically tell me that an if that becomes possible, even if Peter Obi rides as vice presidential candidate for Atiku, or the other way around, if Atiku were to concede, I don't see the possibility. But if he supports an Eastern presidency, let power return to the East, as it were touted for power to return to the south of the country, and went to the southwest. What then would you say, Daniel, with the formidable, numbers that we've seen for Labour Party and the Obedience and the PDP against the APC?
It is, I will repeat, like in my practice although they will say, I refer to my earlier argument and adopt it as my argument still. That all of this scenario you're putting, while it is happening, the other side is not sleeping. You see, war is about gains and losses. War is about retreat and re-strategize. War is attrition. Breaking of your opponent's stronghold gradually until the systems are down. Politics is even more than war in this case. That's why they say politics, a day is like 100 years. 100 years is like a day. And you cannot predict an outcome of politics this night because gamut can change by the morning. The point I am saying, and it bears repeating, is that even when this merger happens in two scenarios, whether Peter Obi has conceded to becoming vice, the structure of APC and their standards will not remain the way it is. So you cannot use a possible change in the merger using the indices of the result of the last election. That's what I'm saying. It is like equity. If you give to the other side, you must give to and they balance it. So always say, what if Peter Obi had considered to becoming vice presidential candidate to Atiku, and President Tinubu gets Konkoso and his people on his side and is able to do it? What will be the situation? Always balance it. Don't talk about one side assuming that the other side will remain constant, because the law of dynamics is that everybody, the law of motion, remains constant or in a uniform acceleration until a force is applied. So if you apply a force in this argument, you must equally use proportionate argument in the other one. Now listen to me, sir. Let me tell you this, and to your viewers. Atiku Abubakar is someone I respected. I still respect. And I say that he's a stakeholder in the country. But he did not win the last election. Now, even if he claimed he won, there was adjudication. And because we believe in the rule of law, the court said Tinubu won. And that's how the system is. So the next thing is to re-strategize. President Bwala Tinubu is by far a strategist in terms of alignment and realignment. So let me give you one scenario that you mentioned by yourself. You mentioned the name Konkoso. Konkoso, I put it to you, historically has had more alliance and allegiance to Tinubu than anybody else. 1. 2, by 2027, Konkoso's political future and aspiration will depend on the pendulum balance. If Konkoso goes for a northerner to support a northerner, and that northerner becomes president, there is 8 years, you defer Konkoso's ambition for additional 8 plus another 8, 16, before his ambition can be achieved. But if Konkoso supports Tinubu, he has just 4 more years before he can make a case to become the president of Nigeria. And since politics is our interest, are you suggesting that Konkoso will look away from opportunities that meet his long-term dream for this? certainly the blind man on the road will tell you no. So give and take, Kwankwaso will be on the side of President Tinubu, hands down.
Okay, we'll wait to see how those possibilities pan out.
Let me put this other one.
Okay.
Secondly, any other northerner who has ambition will rather support Tinubu, because Tinubu will have 4 more years, and then it will come back to that northerner, young or old, to pursue his aspiration. This is the dynamics that will move a lot of people to Tinubu's side than to the other side.
Okay.
Neither will a southerner agree that just after 4 years of a southern presidency, power should go back to the north, because if it goes to the north, it's likely to stay for 8 years. These dynamics, you must at all times balance it to your viewers in the conversation for 2027. And I will say, to submit in this manner, even if there is a merger, which I doubt, and indices and stats have shown that, but even if there is, Tinubu will be in a certain state that will not only match it, but will defeat it hands down. You have it at the word. Like me, for example, my role, having committed to supporting Tinubu, and I have a great deal of influence in the minority community. I know the role that played when I pulled out of APC.
Daniel,
PDP.
Barrister Daniel,
I am supporting
the minority is not happy.
of
The minority, if I may remind you, is not happy with the economics indices that we're getting. The minority is not happy with the food inflation we're having. The minority is not happy that the schools are being closed. That more than 10 million Nigerians are unable to lead the kind of lives they were living prior to this administration. That's the fact. So are you saying that this minority will support, will this minority support the APC leading up to the next election?
So this is the point I will tell you. There is a man sitting in the affairs of Nigeria called President Bwala Tinubu, who got a mandate, and the mandate is not for 1 year. The mandate is for 1 term. The 1 term is 4 years, meaning we have 3 more years for Tinubu's conduct of governance to show whether the state of the country will be the way it is by the time we come knocking. Means it is pregnant with possibility. Meaning that the foundation that is being laid, the actual fruits will start flowing from the 2nd year to the 3rd year and to the 4th year. The only time we can return this conversation and judge President Tinubu and say the Nigerian people are not happy is if we're in the 3rd year and the state of the country is the same way it is. Then you can make a case and say, how can Tinubu secure a 2nd term? But you cannot now make a definitive statement about that. And I told you, because context matters, Mr. Gimba. Context matters to a large extent in anything called debate or conversation, because context gives perspective to issues. And what is the issue? I gave you the scenario of building, foundation, and structure. And I told you, the longer the skyscraper, the deeper the foundation. And that foundation, no matter your investment at foundation, because it is not seen, it is not appreciated. It's a fact. Now, we know it, not that we are suspecting. Our duty in communicating with Nigeria is to help them appreciate this is foundation, but that the fundamentals are in place. Are we going to succeed in convincing Nigeria? That is what in the coming days you will see. And 2, whether the foundation will begin to show sign. I'm telling you, even at the foundation level, there are some things you can point at. We have mentioned the increase in allocation now. Is it close? Because states have all received excess money. So in the coming days, we will communicate with the Nigerian people where the money is. Then at the federal level, all this projected investment, whether you look at it from the entrepreneur point of view, student loan, in housing, in healthcare, or in whatever, you have had some of the reports that the ministers are giving lately. In the coming days, as we enter the 2nd year, it will show now. So what I'm saying is, it is too premature to use today's situation and judge 2027. And we always use that against incumbent, but you do not do the same. If you make the same contrast argument to the PDP, and you assume that there's an APC and PDP, that their state now is the same state, that we're all waking up in 2027, there is no Labour Party and there is no PDP. So you also have to look at that proportional to the degree of everything you talked about. That's what I'm trying to say, sir. And I
Daniel,
can tell you with
it's
every
always
degree of hope.
it's
Yes,
always a delight to hear you analyze these issues. I think maybe up next we'll be looking at the permutations that cuts across regional borders and the
right.
expectations of the APC and indeed other parties. There is a young party that is just emerging. They call themselves the National Youth Alliance (NYA). Maybe you'll be hearing from those ones too very soon, and
One thing
hopefully a
about
very
young
strong
party,
one.
I
It's a
have
young
never
party.
been, I've never been a subscriber of proliferation of party as a means to attainment of power. Because when you proliferate a party, you still have a problem of structure to be able to win power. I am an advocate of what they call, there's a common word that is used, where you go to the same structure of the party and then you dominate it as youngsters and win those structures and then run on those platforms. I'm an advocate of, that is a term they use, disrupting. Yeah, I'm an advocate of disruptive politics. Disruptive politics is go into the parties already with structure, flood it and participate, and bring out people in the National Working Committee, bring out candidates and win. But if you are going to form a new political party, sir, in any political party that is formed today will need on an average of 2 terms of presidency, 8 years, to be able to form a structure that is required. That's my submission, sir.
That's a good place to let it rest, Daniel, and most sincerely, thank you. It seems to see I'm having a little bit of freeze here, but if you can hear me, I do sincerely thank you. It's always a pleasure having you
My
to
pleasure,
talk
sir.
to us here on Front Row
Thank you.
Politics
Anytime.
on Control TV.
Anytime.
To everyone who's listening and watching us, please, you can also watch a repeat or get the link, share it, of all our programs. I am Gimba Umar, and we're signing out for now. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.